It's really easy to just fall into the trap of, okay, I have generative AI, it's in the name, I use it to generate, I use it to create emails, blog posts, briefs, presentations, whatever. It's exciting. It really is. It does get people ahead, but that is not, in and of itself, what changes how work itself gets organized and done. Specifically for non-engineers, creative knowledge workers, because what we do is we create emails. It's easy for us to focus on the generative AI component. Generative AI is where all the news has been. It's what everyone is talking about. It's what all the managers are pushing. It's all of that. But the bigger thing that people are not seeing are the second and third order effects of when there is unlimited content. For a long time, we have lived in this idea of the attention economy. Marketers have been very well aware of the attention economy. We've talked about how do you get attention? We are constantly trying to figure out how do we optimize for it? How do we get people's attention? Now it flips. The attention economy is now your attention. What are you paying attention to? What can you bring? What do you notice? What are you paying attention to where you can make a decision, where you can make a judgment, where you can add some sort of insight to this super intelligent hybrid of humans and LLMs? When you're using a lot of AI, there's a lot of reading. And that's something that people don't really talk about. If you're using LLMs a lot, using Claude Code, there are going to be so many things to read. It will tell you all the things, the different plans, the different decision points, the different open questions. It's just what it does. There's a lot to read and a lot for you to process. You have to be able to read through the whole thing, process it, make sense of it, add your own context to it in your mind and understand how it fits into the larger scheme. And then you have to understand all of it. You have to pay attention to this. If you read well, you should read fast. When we think about these things managerially, if you process information, you yourself have to process information. Of course, there's ways that you can help with the information processing with LLMs, which is again using this idea of using LLMs to get better at using LLMs. Obviously, you can do that. But at some point, the work still has to be done. You still have to have a decision to make, and you have to stand by it. There has to be some sort of conviction to the decision. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. You can't just get bogged down on one decision point. That's why decisiveness is also very important. An organization that doesn't have decisiveness or speed will have a harder time. Not because of the old idea of move fast and break things. That's an old paradigm. It's more that you have to move fast because there are just so many things coming your way that need to be processed. There's always a new thing. It's a new speed that needs to be handled, and except that it's your own stuff now, and you have to process it as someone who's part of an organization, or if you're just a solopreneur, a founder, or a consultant. You have to process all of this information very quickly, understand what makes sense, what doesn't, take the appropriate next step, take the action, and you have to do it again in 10 minutes because this thing does really move so fast, because this is what it's designed to do, and this is what the work is becoming. There's a lot of hype because it is exciting. It's not that there's hype because everyone is collectively lying to you or making it up. I know people are talking about bubbles and all of that, but the hype is here because there is literally something new and there is something exciting. People are genuinely excited about the possibilities. And everyone's like, oh, you got to cut through the hype. And we dismiss hype as a signal, but there is a reason that the hype is there. So the question is, what do you do with it? How do you take that as a signal and then do something with it that matters for you and for your career or for your business, whatever it is? I keep going back to an old book called The 1 Minute Manager, written by someone whose name I forgot. Basically, the whole idea is, how do you become a 1 minute manager? You have to put your idea onto one piece of paper. Can you do that? Can you communicate clearly with everyone about what needs to happen? And that is how you become a 1 minute manager. This is doubly important because people who are using AI to write emails to people who are also using AI to read those emails. That's the other component that you have to really consider. It's not a sustainable model. It's not a sustainable model that we are going to have AIs writing to AIs. It means that none of that work that we have been doing is inherently necessary. Our thing is to write emails to each other. But then the question is, why are we writing emails? Why were we spending so much time writing emails? What was the goal of that? It was to organize context. It was to communicate something about a decision. It was to pass our judgments, to share what we have paid attention to and share that with someone else. Again, colleagues, partners, try to convince them of something, hoping that they pay attention to the things that we ourselves are thinking are important. If we get into this world where we're living with AI, writing emails to AI, collectively we will be bored. And collectively we will find new things to do. We're really good at coming up with some ritual, some extra layer of contextualization. There's an extra layer of communication between people. The point is that we continuously find ways to dynamically organize ourselves, because that's what we do. That is like a very human thing. We socialize ourselves, we get together and we figure stuff out, and we figure out random roles for each other, because that's like a thing that humans do. And now we have a tool that helps us organize and be dynamic in a whole other way. And then I think about this idea of the people in a company. There are always people in a company who embrace AI more than others, because there's always different people. There are people in a company who hate meetings. There's people who like meetings. There are people who love small talk. There's people who hate small talk, because everyone approaches their work situation in a different way. Everyone has different work styles and operational styles. And with all of this, we were able to figure out some sort of consensus. Or maybe we didn't, and that's why there's friction. But friction is important. You shouldn't aim to get rid of friction. The goal is not to get rid of friction. The goal is to make friction usable. How do you have usable friction? What is usable friction for a company, for an organization? Even if everyone agrees all the time, it's not actually a good thing, because then new things don't arise. And today, friction is even more important than ever, because if there's no disagreement, that means there's nothing that needs to be solved. That means you're operating at the mean, you're operating at the average, which is not really going to be good, because that's where you as an organization get replaced. You get replaced by the mean, you get replaced by the average. It's not that you have to create friction on purpose, but you have to allow for it. Because when there is friction, and I don't mean friction as in like personal tension or like interpersonal issues of some level, but friction in how people approach problems differently. That's how you can surface a lot of this context in a different, more effective way. So maybe the goal of meeting then is not to get consensus. The goal of meeting is to get context. For a long time as organizations, we needed to get consensus. We needed to iron out details, and I think the context for a company came from the consensus. Everyone agreed, boom, there's our context. This is what is important. This is what we need to share. This is it. Now I believe what we will be getting is consensus from the context. And what that means is when there is context being shared across the board from everyone, from all different operating levels, we now have a tool, a unifying tool that can get this context. And from there, we make steps towards having consensus as an organization, as opposed to, again, the old paradigm where we got together to try to figure out the consensus first. We all sat in a meeting, we all said random things, and then we kind of walked away with consensus, and that became the company context. This is now our brand guidelines. This is now our campaign strategy, whatever it is. And we didn't get a lot of context in this way, but enough to get the job going and to get the campaigns rolling. Now, in this age, we need so much more context because we have a tool that can process a lot more context. And what winds up happening when we think about positioning, when we think about how does a company operate at a different level, is they have to have a different sense of context. That there are different things that the company or the organization is paying attention to. It means that there is different context from which decisions are being made. So we have to optimize for context. You know how meetings usually end with 3 action items? It's not because only 3 things mattered, but because that's all we could hold collectively. The bottleneck was the processing capacity and also the execution capacity. Now, instead of 3, there could be dozens of action items. You don't have to whittle it down anymore in the same way that we used to before the LLM age. We would always say, in a meeting, you don't shoot bad ideas down. There's no such thing as bad ideas. Now it's like one step further. Because you can implement anything, you can get more things wrong. You can launch 20 prototypes in a quarter for a company. So you almost need the bad ideas, because the bad ideas are the things that break the consensus. And the consensus is the average. It's the thing that the LLMs will not recommend. Especially if we're talking about something like marketing or anything that has to do with some sort of positioning, some sort of standing out, where it's important for you to stand out. You almost have to do something different, have to say something different. Not bad necessarily, but something that is literally outstanding. And that is not the consensus. Because the LLMs have consensus. LLMs own the space for consensus. It's what they do. It's literally the technology of being able to process an ungodly amount of data and then find the consensus between everything. So if LLMs are really good at that, you as an organization, you cannot be optimized for consensus because you're in a losing battle. You're just not using, you can use the LLM for consensus, and you organizationally are looking for context. You're looking for the things that matter within your market, within your customers. That's context. And when I talk about context, that's what all of those things are. The other important thing to keep in mind is that within 6 months, within 12 months, the models will get more intelligent. This doesn't end. The models will get cheaper, the models will get faster, the models will get smarter. We may not be in the full agentic world right now across the board, but over time, there will be more and more agency that these LLMs will have, more autonomous agents, more intelligent agents. That is the world that we're going for. That is how we're going to the place where the world is going to be. You have to begin to build the muscle, both individually and organizationally, to get better at AI. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe when I talk about doing stuff today, we're trying to do this stuff for the future, because the future can be here if you want it to be. There's plenty of tools today that you can build, plenty of agentic systems you can implement. And if you empower the right people in your organization by giving them the freedom to maneuver and make their own decisions, they can bring that future out a lot quicker. When YouTube was becoming a thing, and when I was in college and websites were becoming a thing and blog posts were a thing, everyone was saying, oh my God, everyone's gonna have their own personal blog, everyone's gonna have their own YouTube channel, everyone's gonna have their 15 minutes of fame. Every company blog is gonna be full of great insights. Everything is just like, everyone's just gonna be a star. But nobody was doing that. Like if you look today, how many people have YouTube channels? How many people are the photographers that everyone was afraid that, Instagram is going to replace all the photographers and everyone's going to be their own photographer and no one's going to be a professional at it. And no one was doing the content stuff. Like anytime I would see case studies of like, well, here's the 10 companies that prove that the future for marketing is having blog posts. It's like the same 10 companies that were part of those case studies, part of those showcases. And that's because that's just the way that things work. It's like, it is what it is. 10% of the people will do this thing that is like new and different. 10% of organizations will do this new and crazy innovative thing. There's always an opportunity to get ahead. This world today with LLMs and AI and whatever, this is just a new step on this never-ending staircase. And I'm not even in the camp of the people who are like, this is the greatest opportunity we've ever had as a company, as people, and not because I disagree with it. It's just that this is the different thing. And the thing that comes after this, whatever that will be bigger than that. And of course, LLMs are a bigger thing than the .com boom, because LLMs inherently is built on this thing. Like everything is built on top of it. It's obviously going to be the biggest thing in our career because all breakthroughs are built on top of the previous breakthroughs. So it's not like we've hit a peak and that everything from here will be downhill. And people will say things like, there's never been a change this big. Yes, and that's literally the point, because if it didn't break through, we wouldn't collectively be having all this hype about it. I don't agree with this thing of FOMO. I'm not trying to make you feel like everyone's getting ahead, because no one is getting ahead. Like all of the articles you see about like some random thing, some company that did this thing, or they're making all this money with this thing, it's either marketing or it's cherry picked examples of the 10% of people who do this stuff. Like nobody's getting ahead. There's a small portion of people who are getting ahead. And that's not a knock on people, because that's not me saying that anyone's better or worse. That's like just the way that things are. In our own careers, there's times that we get ahead. We like go extra hard on learning something new or picking up a new skill. And then there's plenty of times that we don't, for a variety of reasons, life, family, like whatever it is. Like we look at the 1% of someone who hustled and was doing that hustling for 90% of their lives, and we're like, well, that's, everyone's getting ahead. But even if you look at the great artists, there are plenty of periods in the great artists' careers that they're not releasing anything. There's like always quiet periods. So it's not that everyone out here is like using AI to get ahead and like you're the only one that isn't, or your company is the only one that isn't. So can you afford not to do anything with AI? Of course. And it doesn't even mean that you're going to be behind. And me, who is like a very big proponent of picking up these skills and experimenting and learning, like it's fine if you don't. You're not like automatically behind just because you're not using AI. That's not what I'm saying at all. You're just not getting ahead, and you're not building that muscle, that habit that will continue to become an important habit or an important muscle and an important skill to have as the time goes on. So falling behind is different than losing the opportunity to get ahead, because there's always opportunities to get ahead. Before AI was a thing, before ChatGPT, there were opportunities in 2019 that people could have gotten ahead. In 2022, there's things that people and organizations could have done to get ahead. That's fine. The reason you're going to conferences and talking to people about this, and the reason that you're paying attention, is because you care on some level about getting ahead, that there's value to that. I just think organizationally and for people, there's rarely a good option to just wait for the market to decide for you. You almost have to decide what it is that you want, and again, individually or as an organization. Because yeah, sometimes the market forces you to make a decision. And that's why, again, we have these moments of hype and breakthroughs where from the zeitgeist, the larger scheme at play, something is forcing a decision, something is forcing your hand. And currently, I believe that the technology today, the technological market today is forcing companies and individuals to decide. And sometimes there comes a time that needs decisions, and you got to do something. You can't not do anything. I mean, you can, and that's also fine. Like, I want to reemphasize, it's fine if you don't do anything. You will not be like burned at the stake or something. It's fine. You're just not getting ahead in the same sort of way. And that doesn't even mean that you are like gonna have a bad career or something. There's a decision that is constantly being asked of you, of the company, of you as a leader, as an employee, as a consultant, as a solopreneur, as a founder, as anything. What are you doing with all of this stuff? I'm not here to fear monger you. I just think it's a very exciting opportunity for people and companies to get ahead. And it's part of the larger game, because your competitors are also going to be trying to get ahead too. It's like a never ending game. And that's all it is.